Hello everyone, welcome to Conversations with Sakina. Today we are going to look into a cold case murder mystery called the Villisca Axe Murders. This is a murder that took place in Villisca, Iowa on June 9th, 1912. It was one of the most horrific murders involving 8 victims, 6 of those being children. Now, I'm not going to go into the nitty-gritty details with this case. If you want to know more about it, you can go to murderhouse.com. That actually covers the entire murder. I believe the website is owned by the people who own the Villisca house now. So the story goes that the Moore family, Josiah and Sarah, Josiah we know was 34. Sarah, I have no idea what her age was. They lived in this house in Villisca, and they had 4 children of their own. Herman, who was 11, Mary Catherine was 10, Arthur Boyd was 7, Paul Vernon was 5. Also in the house that night were 2 little girls who were spending the night with Mary Catherine, Ina Mae Stillinger and Lena Gertrude Stillinger. Ina Mae was 8, Lena Gertrude was 12. They lived about 7 miles outside of town, and their parents were quite wealthy. Interestingly, the Stillinger girls slept in a downstairs bedroom, and Mary Catherine slept upstairs in the boys' room. Not sure, maybe the parents just felt like they would sleep better if they were separated, hard to say. Anyway, they went to bed that night, and sometime between midnight and 5 a.m., they were all bludgeoned to death with the blunt side of an axe, except for Josiah. I believe that the axe side was actually used on him. No matter how you look at it, all of the victims were not very recognizable by the time this axe murderer had completed the job. When they were done, they actually covered all the mirrors and the windows in the house, which is something that they did back then when someone died in preparation for a funeral. He also covered the victims' bodies with sheets. He also prepared a meal. Beans was part of that meal. I don't remember what else. It wasn't a very big meal. And then he let himself out, locking the door with the key behind him. So I'm assuming that he knew where the key was to the house, because that's how Josiah's brother got in later that morning when it was determined that something was wrong, and it was the neighbor lady who determined that. Again, not going into heavy-duty details with this case. It is very fascinating reading at murderhouse.com. They did have a good number of suspects. However, what still blows my mind is they had a kind of alert system. I'm going to call it a phone tree that let everybody in the town of Villisca know that there had been a murder and where that murder took place. So as soon as everybody found out about it, they headed straight to the Moore home and just walked through it, touching things and viewing the bodies, and nobody stopped them from doing that. It was different back then. Evidence wasn't looked at quite the way things are looked at nowadays. So by the time everybody had traipsed through, the evidence was pretty well wiped. So pretty much all that they could base things on when they were doing questioning of people that they were suspicious of having possibly committed the murder, basically all they could go on were alibis, and there wasn't a lot of evidence that they could actually use that wasn't tainted by someone else's fingerprints. Not that they used fingerprints back then, but it just wasn't possible after having so many people traipse through the house. So I'm going to ask the cards here just to establish a bit of a baseline to tell us what happened that night, June 9th, 1912, at the Moore home in Villisca, Iowa. And see what we get. Okay. Sorry, there we go. We've got the Ace of Wands, sorry. Page of Cups. Two of Cups. Four of Cups. And the Hanged Man. So the Four of Wands, I'm sorry, but I think I said Ace of Wands, the Four of Wands. So what this Four of Wands is sharing here is that Villisca was one of those places that was just truly home sweet home. Bad things did not happen in Villisca. People felt like they could go and close their eyes and not worry about a thing going to bed. Nothing bad ever happened that they were aware of until this night. Somebody took this as an opportunity to mess with the emotions of an entire town, to pit good people against bad people, or to make people within the town very suspicious of one another because emotions would be running so high. But no matter what was offered, nobody could figure out who actually committed this horrendous murder. They'd get, some suspects, and something always didn't quite fit to make that person completely guilty, or to be able to prove beyond a shadow of a doubt that the person had committed the murder. So with the Hanged Man, even though this is a card that normally means looking at things in a different perspective or surrendering, in this case, I think I look at it as saying this murder is still totally upside down. Nobody knows still to this day, from 1912 to 2024, nobody knows to this day what actually happened, no matter what perspective is being looked at. So I'd say the cards did a good job with sharing what happened that night, at least from the standpoint of the whole picture from then until now. So the next question that I would like to ask is whether or not the Moore family, at least Josiah and Sarah, did they know the axe murderer? In other words, they probably didn't know who it was that did it to them that night, but was it somebody that they knew when they were living? We have the Moon. We have the Two of Wands. We have the Seven of Cups. We have Justice. And we have the Knight of Swords. Okay, I feel like this is saying with the Moon card, I'm going to say perhaps, but things never look the same by the light of the moon as they do during the day. So I'm wondering, I have no idea if there was an actual moon the night of the murders, but this almost makes me think that maybe one of them, perhaps one of the Stillinger girls, the little girls, one of the little girls that stayed the night, apparently she fought back. So maybe she knew who it was, or at least caught a glimpse. But everybody else is still trying to decide who may have done the dirty deed. There's so many choices, so many different people it could be. And with the Justice card here, obviously they want to bring somebody to justice. They want to find out the truth. So there's a lot of people that were, putting their heads together, trying to figure out who may have done this, who may have done this deed? So I'm going to say in answer, it's not telling us that, the Moors specifically knew, but it is possible that the Stillinger girl saw who committed the crime, who killed her, and then, of course, the rest of the family. So the next question that I'd like to ask is, were any of the suspects that were found over the years, were any of the suspects the actual axe murderer? We have the Knight of Pentacles, the Ace of Wands, Ace of Swords, Page of Pentacles, and the Six of Cups. Okay, I feel like they're saying that the police went through a lot of people. Okay, their mission, their quest was to find out who murdered these 8 people. And, they came across ones certainly that had the potential to have committed such a crime or, were destructive in this way. And also those who were obviously smart enough to be able to do it. Though they asked questions and talked to people and interviewed suspects and so forth, they learned a lot and they put in a lot of quality time trying to figure all this out. But again, with the Page of Pentacles, this was new, okay? This was not something that they had ever dealt with before in the town of Villisca. So they really didn't have a leg to stand on, so to speak, to try and figure out who this person was. They tried, they did. So I'm going to ask one more time. That was almost like a prelude here. So were any of the suspects the actual axe murderer? We have the Lovers, the Page of Swords, King of Swords, 8 of Wands, and the Chariot. Okay, so with the Lovers, I'm going to put that as being Sarah and Josiah. Okay, they were the married couple and they had children, which would be pages. This is the Page of Swords. So I'm going to say children that took after them, so to speak. And then along comes the King of Swords. And this King of Swords in the Buffy movie, which is the Buffy series, which is where these cards are based off of. This was the mayor of the town. He was the big cheese. He was the one that called all the shots. He was the one that had everything that he wanted because he had the power to have that, and he had the brains. Okay, so I'm going to say that this suspect was someone like this, someone who was very wealthy and oftentimes would stand up in front of a podium even. Now I know that there was one suspect who was an Iowa senator. His name was Frank Fernando Jones. So that is a possibility that they're telling us that this was the person who did the deed. But this king was also one who could very easily rally the troops for himself to quickly put suspicion on someone else. So he very well could have been the one, but it looks like not everybody was convinced. And he was probably a very smooth talker. And, things have to be very sure and very clear before a senator can be charged with anything. So the struggle continued. And, the police, they kept focusing. They had focus. And they did focus on him for a while. But unfortunately, he was just too confident, and they had to move on. They had to exonerate him. But he is the only one thus far that has shown up. So let's switch decks here, and we'll use this one and see if, goodness, things just want to fly right out, and see if we can determine anything more about this axe murderer. What can these cards tell us about the axe murderer that killed 8 people in Villisca? Okay. We have the 7 of Cups. We have the 4 of Cups. We have the 5 of Swords. We have the Death card. And we have the Daughter of Water, or Page of Cups. So we're asking here, what can the cards tell us about this individual? According to the 7 of Cups here, a foundation was laid at some point in time, and whatever this emotional illusion was that this person had, it grew. And no matter what came up, no matter what this person did, they just could not put that aside. Other things were obviously offered that they could do to get their mind off of, whatever this illusion was. However, they just wouldn't accept anything else. They wouldn't let go of it. Their emotions just clung to whatever this incredible illusion was, what they had in their head that happened that affected their emotions to this degree. And with the 5 of Swords here, it's almost like it broke them, broke their mind. They felt very betrayed, and, notice that this is sitting right on top of the King of Scythes. And this Frank Fernando guy, the U.S. Senator, or the Iowa Senator, he was a big cheese in Villisca, but he also owned from what I understand, owned an implement store, like a John Deere store. And so he raked in the money. He was quite wealthy and very smart. Josiah Moore, the man who was murdered, worked for this senator for a while, and then decided to go out on his own and opened up his own implement store. And the senator started losing money, apparently. Well, perhaps this is the betrayal that this senator felt. This person felt. So what goes into the mind? And usually this card is a card of transformation, but we're going to call it death as it's showing, because that's what this whole reading is actually about. And I believe with the Page of Water here, it's showing that that's what initiated this whole murder. The emotions initiated the whole murder. This man just could not get this so-called betrayal out of his head. And it could have been something other than, the implement store, if in fact it's him. So is there anything else that the cards can tell us about this axe murderer. We have the Two of Pentacles, the Ten of Swords, the Lovers, the Eight of Wands, and the Five of Pentacles. So I think it's saying here with the Two of Pentacles that the murderer had a choice. They could have changed their minds about this, but it's almost like the destruction was already done. They had it all planned out in their minds. This is the Ten of Swords, and they had it all figured out, the whole ending of all of this, and it had to do with Sarah and Josiah Moore. And once that decision was made, he acted fast. And the Five of Pentacles definitely shares the torment that he placed upon the whole town by what he did. And this also shows a monkey being tortured. Well, how he ended the lives of these 8 people. I would say they didn't feel much for long, but still, that's not the point. It would have been torture, torment. So we know that this guy just, can we say sore loser perhaps? So whoever this King of Swords was, the very smart man who obviously had it all, because again, we are going based on the character here because that's what the cards are about. The character here was the mayor, and he was in charge of everything. And in this particular card in the show, this mayor was giving a speech at the graduation, Buffy's graduation, and he turned into this horrifying demon monster that they had to fight. So if that shares anything, obviously due to what happened in Villisca, the axe murderer did turn into a horrifying monster. Difference being, the mayor died, and they never found out who actually committed this murder. So we're going to switch cards here for a moment, and we're going to go off the beaten track of the murder. The Villisca house is a place where people go to determine if the house is haunted, okay? That whether or not any of the family is still living there. Many paranormal groups go and spend the night. Groups of people go and spend the night just to, I don't know, maybe have the thrill of a possible haunting. So we're going to ask the cards here if any of the Moore family members haunt the house, or they never went into the light because of the horror that took place that night. So let's see what we have here. We have the Two of Cups. We have the Empress. We have the World. We have the Sun. And we have the King of Swords. So it looks like here they definitely all had the choice to go into the light, go into spirit. They all had the choice. I believe the mother, according to this, the mother stayed behind. And she very well may be, flickering lights and working with the energy when people come in. I do believe that there's comments or videos where the lights flicker or the lights go out, and the place has no electricity and no plumbing, but you bring in your own lights, your own tape recorders, your own battery packs, that kind of thing. And I do believe she may be draining the energy, draining the batteries, things like that. But yeah, she definitely decided to stay in the world. She has the key. She knows she can go at any time into the light to be happy. But there's something about, now look at here, we've got the King of Swords here. And the king of scythes is the King of Swords. And we also have the King of Swords here. I look at this card as the mastermind. He played them like pawns on a chessboard. And she knows who this is. So she apparently is not ready to go into the light, even though, I mean, obviously, this King of Swords is dead now. I mean, it's been a lot of years. She may have tried over the years to try and show somebody who this person was. Or maybe she stuck around to torment him, haunt him. Just a guess there. She can go, like I said, she can go anytime. So let's see if it has anything more to say again about this. We know the mother did. Did any other family members remain behind, not go into the light after their deaths or on to spirit? We have the Moon. We have the Eight of Cups. We have the Emperor. We have Temperance. And we have Justice. So the Moon card is saying, you know, things look totally different on the other side, by the light of the moon, so to speak. She could have walked away. She definitely could have walked away. And we see the Empress is under here. She could have walked away. But she wanted to get this guy. He's the Emperor. So King of Scythes, Emperor. She wanted to get him. She wanted to bring things back into balance. Which definitely, it was totally out of balance with 8 people suddenly gone and this one person still standing. She wanted justice. Obviously, she wanted the truth to come out. So I think she may have, like I said, she knows she can go at any time. But I think she made a deal with someone on the other side to say, hey, I want justice. I want to get this guy. You need to understand that. So she was allowed to stick around. Nobody forced her to go. Now, the house is still apparently haunted. So we did ask about the Moore family. There were also the Stillinger girls, the 2 little girls that stayed the night. And I know that there have been some investigations that, you know, have said that there's children haunting the house. So since none of the Moore children came forward, did the Stillinger girls, or did one of the Stillinger girls stay behind? And are they also there with the mother haunting the house? We have the King of Wands, the Ace of Wands, the Ace of Cups, Wheel of Fortune, and the Eight of Pentacles. So I feel like the cards are saying with this King of Wands, looking at the picture on the card, I think one of the little girls saw who did this crime. It did say that one of these little girls, I believe the 12-year-old Lena Gertrude Stillinger, fought back. So I feel like she saw this person. So her passion and her emotion knows no bounds. At that point, seeing her own sister, murdered, and this person coming after her, it changed her. It changed her completely, as we see with the Wheel of Fortune. She didn't survive, obviously, but I do believe she may have allowed herself, because of this trauma, that she is locked in now. She has allowed herself to remain and has grown to actually like it. She likes being earthbound. And part of her, I think, because of the emotion that she went through and the fire, the anger that she probably still feels, she might be blaming herself for what happened to her sister. And of course, that's all she saw. She knew nothing about the rest of the family, obviously, that she was staying with. But she remembers this. So yes, I think she chose to stay behind and stay earthbound. That is where she's at currently. So that's probably the child, even though I think many of the investigators believe that there's younger children there. She's only 12. And the youngest of the kids were 5 and 7. But I'm not seeing anything that shows that they stayed behind. One other question that I have is, if this 12-year-old girl, Lena Gertrude, stayed behind because of the situation, can she see the mother, Sarah Moore, who also stayed behind? Do they pal together in this Villisca house? We have the Chariot. We have the Six of Wands. We have the Six of Swords, Knight of Pentacles, and the Five of Swords. I do believe from the Chariot card and what's on here is that there have been times that the mother, I believe, has tried to convince Lena to go on to spirit, telling her that she would be ever so much more comfortable there and feel good again, feel as though life was about harmony at this point. But that's not where Lena's mind is going. The Six of Swords is supposed to be kind of like a peace of mind card, but in this one we're obviously seeing she's reliving constantly what happened, and it is anything but harmony to her. So she wants to join with the mother and stick here on the earth and try and figure out a way to get revenge on the person who did this to them. And she sees, she plays that scenario over and over in her mind. And maybe it plays out in the house too, because the energies are still there. Maybe her mind can recreate this murder in that house at specific times. So yes, they do know each other. They do see each other. and they're both there. The mother can go anytime she wants. The girl could too, but I think she really has too much guilt and too much emotion, thinking that she should have been able to save her sister, or however the mind works to play tricks like that. I believe she has locked herself in, and that being the ghost on the earth plane is what she prefers. Playing this out over and over again. Sad, but understandable for sure. Okay, so that's a lot of information that came forward on this Villisca Axe murder case. We didn't really determine for sure who the person was. However, I think the King of Swords and the King of Swords mastermind card here tells a lot. And the picture obviously on here and how that character is depicted in the Buffy series, I think that tells an awful lot about this killer. How powerful he was. And again, he may not have done his own dirty work. People like that oftentimes don't. But he did act fast, and he wanted to make sure that whoever did the job, if it wasn't him, that they made it as bad as they could possibly make it. Okay, so that is what I have for the Villisca Axe murder cold case. If you have anything that you can add, what I may have missed in the cards, something you may have seen in the cards, please put it in the comment section below. And also, if you have any other questions that I might have asked or could have asked, if you could put those in the comment section also. We may come back and revisit this if enough questions are asked. Okay, so until next time, take care.